All right, we will call the council meeting to order. Everybody stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, take the roll.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here.
Morissette.
Here.
Wakefield. Here. Knutson. Here. Kennedy.
Here.
Brook. Hall.
Here.
All right, first thing up is comments and suggestions from citizens present. This is your opportunity to talk about any issue that is not on the agenda tonight, anything that relates to the city. It is for city residents only. If you have a comment, please come up, identify yourself and where you live, and try to keep your comments brief and try not to repeat comments that have already been made by previous speakers. Having said that, not quite yet. We're going to be after, hot air is going to be after the comments.
Okay, I was just going to do a welcome.
Okay.
Okay, I'll wait.
Anybody have any comments? Any comments? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. Next up is presentations. Is there anyone here that has a presentation? Normally, I don't ask that question. They're usually on the agenda, but come on up.
You can help hold this. I get the short person here. I'm Ruth Peterson with the Hudson Hot Air Fair. These are the new banners that Hot Air Fair has purchased to go downtown on the street lights, because the other ones have pretty much, thank you, Mike. It's pretty much, don't look good anymore. So we had these made and we're presenting them to the city tonight. So Rich, thank you. And to the city, to the fire, to the police, everybody who helps us with Hot Air Fair, we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It was really nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're great. That's excellent.
That's beautiful.
Thank you for bringing them in.
Are you hanging them, Ruth?
No, I got other banners hanging.
No, Mike's just gonna hold them.
I'm sure we can find one for you to hang, Randy. Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you. Any other comments on that?
Very pretty.
Okay then, consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry.
Public hearings.
We got a public hearing, don't we? All right, public hearing on adoption of final special assessments for the 2022 sidewalk replacement project. This is a public hearing. It's your opportunity to speak on this topic. If you have any comments, please come up. Same thing. Introduce yourself, where you live. Public hearings, you do not have to be a resident here. But seeing as how this is within the city, I can't expect anybody would be commenting on it otherwise. Do we have anybody on Zoom that might want to comment?
We might. Somebody's connecting still. We had a little Zoom issue there. So,
I'll
oh, looks like we have it now. So I don't know. It says Margaret's iPad. Are you on for the sidewalk assessment replacement public hearing? Let's see if they want to unmute.
No, I'm part of the Operation Help board, and I was just curious about the rezoning for the new site at North Lake that we're hoping to get rezoned.
All right, that's coming up a little bit later. Thank you, Margaret. All right, anybody have a comment on this topic? Any comment? Any comment? Any comment?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Public hearing is closed. Discussion and possible action regarding the adoption of Resolution 4-23, revising and adopting final special assessments for the 2022 sidewalk replacement project.
Move to approve resolution 4-23.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes from the January 3rd, 2023 regular council meeting. Approve the claims in the amount of $10,305,392.69. Approve setting a public hearing date for a zoning map amendment from I-1 Light Industrial to B4 Central Business District at 727 2nd Street, Operation Help.
I'd like to move to have that removed from the consent agenda so we can discuss it a
Okay.
little bit more.
Approve the Hudson Rotary River Dunk. Approve the Gopher to Badger Half Marathon. Approve police sidearm transition. Approve the purchase of new holiday decorations in the amount of $13,558. Approve police use of undesignated revenue funds. Approve the appointment of council member Wakefield to the Joint Fire Board, and approval of the city engineer hire.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item C. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes,
Kennedy?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved. Consent agenda is approved. Item C.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to pull this from the consent agenda because I felt it deserved some discussion, just so that we could get further our knowledge about this issue and also help the public or anyone else who might be listening in on what the process is we're going through. I have had the benefit and have taken advantage of talking to our professional staff in the community development. Mike Johnson's been very generous with his time, explaining zoning issues and zoning rules to me and how they apply in the city of Hudson, and I understand we're somewhat unique in some ways. One of the things I find kind of fascinating, it's the second time I've watched this process, where the Plan Commission suggests that that there should be a public hearing, but then we have to okay that there should be a public hearing, and then it's sort of like watching ping pong. Now the ping pong ball goes back to them and they hold the public hearing and things go forward. So I think that can be a little confusing because sometimes the public may be thinking, oh, well, it's approved now, or it is not approved, depending on. So it wasn't my goal to get into it in depth tonight, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, and I know I did let Mike Johnson know ahead of time that I would be bringing this a little bit for more discussion so we could understand the process, what's going on, if everyone knows. Basically, the staff issue sheet has indicated the desire of the applicant to go from light industrial zoning to a general downtown use. And as Mike has explained to me, this property is already a part of the downtown commercial overlay. So that had been kind of the plan, that it eventually would be. I mean, it was a business for many years. I mean, Nor Lake was probably one of the first manufacturing businesses that came to Hudson and stayed anyway. They certainly have been very successful, no longer known as Nor Lake, of course. But the changes that are proposed are going to potentially have an impact on the neighborhood, and that's part of our job, is to investigate that and to listen to the neighbors and go through those plans. And so I just thought it would be pertinent for us to talk about it a little bit. I have no reason to not want a public hearing because it is my purpose on City and the Council is to talk about issues that people might not know about or understand, and also to accept input from the public. So I definitely think a public hearing, of course, is the next step. So Mike, do you have any comments or any further info?
No, your ping pong analogy is spot on. Nick and I have gone back and forth on this over the past couple of years, just how unwieldy that process is and how confusing it can be for people on the outside.
That's what I think.
Not understanding, well, wait, did it get approved? Did it not get approved? Or is this a public hearing? Is this not a public hearing? Where do we stand here? So that's going to be one of the things in that new zoning code is going to be real helpful to streamline that process and make it much more clear to the layperson to understand.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and of course appreciate having the issue sheet with drawings and schematics and so on. And there's certainly, I don't think there's a person in Hudson that doesn't appreciate what Operation Help does. A huge impact. One of those grassroots organizations that got started and has been for many years, very helpful and a great nonprofit resource in our community. So helping find the best use for that property and whether, you know, what is the appropriate steps going forward, I think is important. One thing I do certainly give credit again to Mike Johnson and your department is that you've initiated the neighborhood meetings, which those do notify people that live within 300 feet, 100 yards, am I correct? That own property within that potential zoning change. And so those individuals have gotten a letter and they've been invited to participate in meetings, which the applicant has hosted. And some of the notes are included in our issue sheet today of questions and concerns that were brought up. And certainly, I just don't want anyone to think that, oh, I didn't hear about that, I didn't know about it, what do I do next, how do I find out more? And I know the Plan Commission, of course, will be discussing it at some length. But again, I know certainly we've heard this before, that our zoning code can be kind of difficult to work with, and some of the applicants, developers that are approaching, you know, what is allowed, what is not allowed. I definitely think, as always, parking is going to be a concern. That's a concern in traffic flow for the neighborhood. But we have steps in place to address that and to hear those concerns. So that was all. If anyone else has any other comments, that's why I wanted to pull it from the consent agenda tonight.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve a public hearing date.
Second.
Got a motion and second to approve public hearing. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on ordinance number 3-23, adopting section 225, article 5, smoke shops.
Should have sat back down. So this is another ordinance that we've kind of realized that we probably needed to have, defining what a smoke shop is, and creating some kind of location restrictions as to, you know, where they can, you know, set up shop. And then the same thing, it's a number restriction. So, you know, Becky does the licensure for our tobacco dealers. And that can be quite the process, Becky. I don't know if you want to touch on that at all. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But it's one of those things we didn't, you know, realize we needed until our code wasn't very clear in terms of, you know, what a definition of a smoke shop was, and also then making sure that we had a difference between a smoke shop and a premium cigar type dealer or cigar type business. So, yeah, so if there's any questions on the ordinance, otherwise, you know, staff would recommend approval.
Currently now, Mike, are there any other shops in any restricted zones? Are there any by schools? Are there any by each other within what we're proposing?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I don't believe so.
But
I
you
don't
haven't
know
gone
so
out
for
with
sure.
the tape measure yet?
I haven't got the tape measure out.
Right.
But, you know, if we incorporate this ordinance and they're already an established business, I don't think, you know, Nick, I think we would probably.
Well, it's anything, after you adopt this, if there are any existing shops that would not be in conformity, they'd be legal non-conforming uses.
Yep.
So this particular ordinance would not impact those shops.
So, and not to get back in all the weeds of the stuff, but any illegal drugs or whatnot being sold out of those shops? Are we addressing that in this ordinance?
Yes, so our PD actually has gone out a few times to some of our local establishments, just because it's getting grayer and grayer every day, as we know. Minnesota now allows a certain amount of THC in products that are not allowed in Wisconsin, but under federal law, there's other kinds that can be above a certain amount because they're not regulated. It's a very fast-changing area, but our PD does go out on a very regular basis to do what they can to enforce what we can. But again, because it's very confusing about what's legal or not, but they do go and check to make sure that things that are not allowed are not being sold. And they confiscate items, they review them, you know, things like that. Also, I believe the state is trying to take a closer look at these things too, to try to provide a larger enforcement mechanism. So we do have our department go out on a very regular basis and look.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this particular ordinance doesn't deal with enforcement. This is really just definition, providing definition to smoke shops, tying it back to state law and the state statutory definitions, and then identifying where smoke shops can be located.
And the
So
number
just
of,
try,
and the number of licenses.
and the number, correct, but just really trying to provide clarity where your existing ordinances are not clear.
Well, quite frankly, I think that we should probably look at the ordinance behind enforcement as well, with the increased drug and the fentanyl that is coming into town and the synthetic drugs. There's a problem within our city and our county. We need to take a proactive step. Any measure that we can anywhere to go after that kind of stuff. And so I think public safety will take the issue up as far as enforcement. Thanks.
So how many shops do we have that meet this definition?
We haven't, Becky, you'd probably know how many we.
They're more and more all the
Yeah.
time.
And
So
they
it's
seem
actually
to-
hard. I'm trying to think. I mean, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, there's at least,
I was just 5,
there's at
6?
least, yeah, probably 6 or 7 I can think of. And we
Yeah.
keep getting more and more applications, which is why, that was one of the driving forces behind this, is that we're getting more and more people interested in opening up these sort of shops. And, you know, we do think that it's in the community's best interest to try to put some sort of controls on it, for a number of reasons.
Well, as you mentioned, the THC stores in Minnesota, right now it's illegal in Wisconsin. Does this, they wouldn't fall into this category, right? Would that be a completely different category?
No,
Or can
these
we
smoke
build
shops
this?
sell a variety. I mean, it's that same CBD. You know, you see the CBD shops,
Right.
things like that. If they sell the tobacco products as well, they would fall under this. But regardless of what they fall under, any of our local establishments that would be selling anything that's potentially illegal, that usually definitely falls underneath state and federal law, but we still enforce it, which is why we talked before about our PD going out and trying to check to see what they're selling. Does it fall within the parameters allowed in Wisconsin versus what's allowed in Minnesota? Those sort of things. So we are checking on that part. So this is, I could say that some of them might fall underneath this, because if they sell the tobacco products, they fall into the smoke shop sort of. But if they're strictly like the CBD only, it wouldn't fall underneath these sort of requirements. But the enforcement side, that's strictly state, federal, and that's what we use when we go take a look at them.
Okay.
Anybody?
Was there a motion?
No.
Move to adopt ordinance 3-23.
Suspend the
We
rules.
have to suspend the rules.
You know.
Move to
yeah,
suspend the
yeah.
rules.
One night it's that, one night I move to suspend the rule.
On your
Always
toes.
ordinance.
Motion to suspend?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to suspend the rules, roll call?
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved, rules are suspended.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Move to adopt ordinance number 3-23.
Second.
Got a motion second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, Mike. Public Works Committee update.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be on the agenda tonight. Mr. Mayor, I wanted to report back to the council and to the public. First of all, we're very grateful that the council voted to designate the remaining ARPA funds to Public Works to spend on street maintenance. The dollar amount came to $326,140.63, and that is very greatly needed. As we've discussed many times, there's a great need for funding. The committee discussed some potential street improvements. Our Public Works Director, Mike Mraz, came up with a list of several streets or segments of streets that this amount of money could address their problems. That is one of our challenges, that is to determine, we have a lot of issues, but where do we spend the money and in what sort of order and fashion? And we do have some metrics. We have some ways of prioritizing those decisions, and certainly our prior city engineer worked closely together with the Public Works Director to establish those guidelines, and I think they were pretty much in agreement on the decisions. And we're very grateful that there's going to be another city engineer on board, because our Public Works Director is got his hands full with many other projects. So it's good to have another person to work on this. Well, anyway, at our meeting, we decided that we would like to include the whole council in this decision making. So we deferred the opportunity to choose a street that it could be spent on, and thought that this would be a useful discussion for the whole council, partly so that you can feel like you have input, and also just to kind of walk through with our professional staff, helping guide, those decisions. Well, why can't we do this street, or what about this area of town that needs work? So we have decided that we would postpone that decision making. We do have still a window of time that we can spend the ARPA funds, and I'm not sure if that street would be had the maintenance work done this year or not, because there's engineering and topographical work that needs to be done. So we won't be unnecessarily delaying or losing the opportunity to spend that money. But we decided that when we do have the special meeting where we get together as a group, focused on talking about public works, infrastructure maintenance, and public safety, how they tie together, that would be a good opportunity to determine how to spend that money. And so I just wanted to report that back to the council. And again, thank you for designating it for public works.
Great, thanks, Joy.
Thank you.
Any comments? All right, thank you. So, I don't have anything. Anybody?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.